Hi, and welcome to Sequential Artifacts, a series about comic book history and culture, profiling comics from my personal collection.
Start. 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff! Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Touchstone Pictures and Steven Spielberg present a Robert Zemeckis film.
We tunes may act idiotic, but we're not stupid.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I'm Hans.
And I'm Franz.
And we want to pump you up.
I leave them in my locker.
There's more for your life.
You've always been heard, but now you can be seen. Introducing the PXL2000 camcorder. With the same audio cassette that makes your music, it makes videos. Sight and sound at a price that's easy to handle. Just shoot and play back on the PXL2000 TV. The PXL2000 video system. Now you can be seen and heard.
Marvel Action Universe. With Spider-Man, Dino Riders, and RoboCop. Marvel Action Universe.
They derive from pre-existing rocks through the workings of weathering, erosion, transport, and deposition, the never-ending process reworking the Earth's crust.
1988 means so much to me for so many reasons, not least of which was the arrival of Fisher-Price's PXL2000 video camera, but most of which was the time I spent with my cousin, Jason. I have two PXLs now, an original model and a modified one that lets me film to a digital recorder. I'm going to use that for this episode as much as I can. There are many sayings about cousins, and despite their trite, carve them on a piece of wood and hang them proudly in your country chic home nature, I'm a sucker for every one. Cousins by blood, friends by choice. In my cousin, I find a second self. A cousin is a little bit of childhood that can never be lost. Yep, every one of them. I miss my cousin Jason, my first best friend. We were a year apart, but as close as you could be. Countless sleepovers and summer days spent together. Each weekend was a test of will to see if we could stay awake for all of Saturday Night Live. Days spent reading comic books, playing video games, watching Popeye cartoons and movies, or running around the neighborhood until it was time to come home for dinner. Countless hours spent playing with our G.I. Joe action figures. When we were together, we never played as good guys. We always played as the Cobra operatives and commanders of the Crimson Guard, Tomax and Xamot. Twins, only distinguishable from the scar Xamot had on his cheek. Jason had the exact scar on his cheek where he cut it on the corner of a table. Tomax and Xamot share an empathetic bond. It allows them to communicate wordlessly, finish each other's sentences, speak in unison, and feel each other's pain. 1988 marks the last of those halcyon days, as the next 2 years would bring high school, new friends, and new paths. Of course, we still had a bond, but it was mostly united by holidays, special occasions, and big changes that demanded a visit. I'll never forget the day Jason stopped by with his first car, a Camaro or Trans Am, something with T-tops. It was a surprise visit. I was home alone and eating a hoagie while I was watching a recording I made of that weekend's episode of MTV's 120 Minutes. It must have been around 1992. I left my hoagie sitting out to take a ride in his car, and when I came back, our cat Sabrina had eaten everything off the sandwich. All that was left was bread and lettuce. We had fun just driving around in his car with the tops off, laughing, music blaring. Back in '88, we were still best friends. Still weekend sleepovers, still summers spent together. At the arcade that summer, a new game had taken particular hold of us. Altered Beast. The game is set in ancient Greece. Zeus's daughter Athena is abducted by Neph, the ruler of the underworld. To rescue his daughter, Zeus resurrects a Roman centurion as his champion. By collecting power-ups, the champion transforms into one of 5 magical beasts, and it was for 2 players. We spent many quarters, many hours on that game, side by side. The biggest thing that happened in 1988 was getting our hands on a Fisher-Price PXL2000. It was a video camera created especially for kids. It recorded video on audio cassette tapes. The black and white footage was grainy and pixelated with a resolution of 120 by 90 pixels and a frame rate of 15 frames per second. But it was ours, made just for us, and it was affordable compared to VHS camcorders at the time. We first got wind of it in the late summer of '87 while watching Nickelodeon and seeing the commercial. This was followed shortly by a contest held by one of our favorite Nickelodeon shows, Rated K, for kids, by kids.
Enter to win a trip to Hollywood when you try out for the PXL2000 screen test. You and a friend must audition in one of these 12 cities. You impersonate your favorite nationally known celebrity, a singer, comedian, or actor, while your friend tapes you on the new PXL2000 camcorder system from Fisher-Price. The 4 best videos will be shown on Rated K, and viewers will pick their favorite. Write screen test entries, P.O. Box 4788, Libertyville, Illinois 60198 for entry form and details. Winning pair gets a 3-day trip to Hollywood worth more than $8,000. Enter to win a trip to Hollywood when you try out for the PXL2000 screen test.
Unfortunately, we didn't live in one of those cities. But even more, we didn't have a PXL2000. Even though it was cheaper than other cameras, it was still out of range to even think about asking for as a Christmas or birthday present. Still, we kept our eye on it. Of course, other things occupied our time and attention away from the PXL2000. Jason lived across the street from a movie theater, so Willow, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Big, The Great Outdoors, Young Guns, they were our great escapes. As well as comic books. The comics we read that year meant so much to us. The stories were so important. We found ourselves in each of them. Here are some of my favorites from 1988 that I still have in my collection. Brooding superheroes have always been my go-to. Batman, Daredevil, Wolverine, they're still my favorite. 1988 was a great year for all 3. Issue 254 of Daredevil was the first appearance of Typhoid Mary, which kicked off a great story arc by Ann Nocenti and artist John Romita Jr. Over in the Batman series, Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli, my favorite artist of the era, brought new depth and pathos to Bruce Wayne in the Year One story arc. It's perhaps the most essential Batman story. '88 was remarkable for Wolverine. He was the lead feature in the new bi-weekly anthology series Marvel Comics Presents. And Logan finally got his own monthly series with the creative team of Chris Claremont and John Buscema. And perhaps most famously, he appears in The Incredible Hulk number 340, a highly valuable comic in its own right. This cover is legendary and has inspired many homages. Continuing into the world of mutants, one of my favorite series begins in '88, Excalibur, an unlikely team including Captain Britain, Megan, Nightcrawler, Phoenix, Shadowcat, and her dragon, Lockheed. Parallel worlds and cross-dimensional travel was an early focus of this weird series. The weirder it got, the more I loved it. Over in X Factor, things got dark in issue number 24, which is the first appearance of the transformed Warren Worthington into Death, one of the villain Apocalypse's 4 horsemen. Warren says, Xavier made Angel what he was, Apocalypse made Death. Eventually, he breaks free of the Death persona and becomes Archangel. There were 2 special Marvel comics that year that included an original Marvel graphic novel about Cloak and Dagger called Predator and Prey. It's a brooding, complex, and emotional story. Always the internal conflict with Cloak and Dagger, metaphorical and literal. Lastly is the 2-part Silver Surfer series, published as part of Marvel's Epic imprint and written by Stan Lee and illustrated by the legendary Mobius. Man, we just stared at that art for hours. Even the lettering hypnotized us. The PXL2000 came back on our radar with the release of the 1988 Sears Spring-Summer catalog. Our interest was reignited. We loved movies. We wanted to make our own. Ads began showing more frequently in the newspapers, until finally it could be bought for $99. Could we ask for it as a joint gift? $50 a piece didn't seem so bad. Then one day, it happened. Jason came over for the weekend, and he had it. The PXL2000. And now we needed to make something. Our first project, The Scarecrow, a horror film. All day long, we filmed on the little cassette tape the camera used. There was no way to edit outside the camera, so we had to have the whole thing choreographed, from the opening title to the end credits, pausing the tape between shots, rewinding to the exact moment if we needed a second take. That was the first movie I ever made. We made. It lit something inside of me that wouldn't be fully realized for another 8 years, but it was always there. It started with Jason. 2025 marks 10 years since Jason passed. I often think about our childhood together, the paths we took, the struggles I couldn't help with. Like Cloak, an internal darkness consumed him. Destructive crows I couldn't scare away. The distance between us increased over the years, but always dissolved when we were in each other's presence. His friendship, love, and influence had a lasting impact on me. I am what I am, I do what I do, in so many ways, because of Jason. Man, he loved Popeye.
I am what I am, and that's all what I am.
Like Tomax and Zaymont, we had an empathetic bond.
I feel what my brother feels.
We were beasts, altered together, side by side, adventuring, champions to each other. If only I had the powers of Zeus.
Power up.